podcast of NewOrleans.Football. And the Saints are in the playoffs. We're here to break it down. I have the man behind NewOrleans.Football himself, Nick Underhill. Nick, how you doing, man? What's up?
Man, I can't believe the season's already come to an end, the regular season. It feels like a couple of weeks ago we were wondering if there was even going to be a season, and everybody was stressing out, and the league somehow got every single game played, which is somewhat incredible given everything that's going on. But, I mean, I'm not ready to be done working, so I'm hoping we're doing this, talking about some live games for quite a while. And hopefully this is about to be the first one of several more.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. Yeah, so I just realized I accidentally ignored your text earlier about season. So we're gonna let the takes fly live on the pod. I just want to say before we get started, did you wash this shirt before you sent it to me?
I did because
it smells too good for a new shirt.
Yeah, so like it had some print on it. And like there's like some like chemical residue. So I took care of it. I washed it and sent it out, man.
Man, that's true friends, man. That's what friends are made of. I was putting it on the day and I was like, no way that they manufactured a shirt smelling this good. So thank you for my extra large shirt, man. I really appreciate it. I'm just happy. I'm just happy.
It's definitely a medium.
Hey guys,
you ain't popping an XL like that.
Hey, look, man, look. We're here to talk about my shirt size. We're here to talk about the Saints and their game against the Bears this Sunday. In a wild
shirt from Tommy Lee Lewis, man.
Hey, man, you will not make me the bane of every Saints fan in the entire nation. Like that's not happening, man. I don't need that. I'm not even equipped. Hey, look, the Saints play the Bears this Sunday. The Saints are in the playoffs. So before we even get into the breakdown between the Saints and the Bears, the Saints have, the notion of this whole season, one of the themes of this season has been the Saints haven't had all of their guys on the field at the same time, right? Michael Thomas and Drew Brees hasn't played a lot of snaps together. Kamara's out for COVID. Emmanuel Sanders was getting up to speed. Marcus Williams didn't play this past game. There's a lot of different things, right? And so the Saints seem to be getting to a point where they're getting their guys back. So the one of the first things that I want to get from you, and I want you to talk about, is who's going to be available this Sunday, right? Do you think they'll have all their guys back, or they're still maybe a little bit shorthanded?
I think mostly everybody's going to probably be back on the field. I mean, we're guessing right now, and there should be a better idea tomorrow after Wednesday's practice. If Mike's going to play, we should know for sure because he'll be back out there and he'll return to practice. I'm expecting he will. I mean, I thought the plan was for him to kind of sit out 3 weeks, get healthy, come back, and get going in the playoffs. So I'd be surprised if he isn't playing. I think they'll find a way to get Alvin on the field. He isn't going to be able to practice this week. He can't have symptoms. If he shows symptoms, he won't be able to play. But so far, so good on that front. And it, if he's this far into it, I'm going to guess that it keeps going well. Hope it goes well for him, just even on just on a health level.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, Sean talks about him being the smartest guy on the team all the time. He let him call a play. I think there's just a level of understanding there of the game from him that's a little bit higher than your average person. So I think that he should be able to go out there, go on the Zoom, go through the install, know what's going on, and then be able to play on Sunday. If there's a handful of things, if they introduce 5 plays, 10 plays that, Sean goes through the cut-ups, all the touchdowns, and if there's a few new things that they haven't done before, then you can put Ty Montgomery out there in those plays if you aren't comfortable with Alvin being able to do those things. But, assuming he isn't in the doghouse, and I don't think he is, and I don't think they would spite themselves at this point.
Yeah, it's not the time for that. He can be in the doghouse in the off season.
Like make him run some extra laps.
Yeah, for real.
But I don't have any indication he's in there. Mickey was asked about it the other day, and he's like, "Hey, you can catch it anywhere." So I mean, look, people are going to judge what they see, how they want. That's not for me to decide. Whatever. Like if he can play, he can play, and I think they'll put him out there. Deontay Harris has been. It's been a mystery. It's been hard to get information on him. He had the tweet the other day that made it sound like he's going to play. I don't know if we should read into that or not, but I do think that's someone that, quietly gives them another advantage to hidden yardage. The return yardage gets a lot better. So I just think it's what we've been saying on here week after week for the last few weeks is that the priority was to get healthy for the playoffs. It looks like they're going to be as healthy as possibly can be for the playoffs.
Yeah.
it's weird because you're debuting your team in some
I know,
ways
right?
now. It's been like it's like a super long preseason, and the last 3 weeks had like a super preseason feel to it. Just kind of like, oh, let's see how they get on track for the real games.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Yeah,
they're here now, and I think they're in a good spot.
yeah. You bring up a good point. I think them obviously getting those guys back. Part of it is like, man, you get all these weapons back, and the offense can be outstanding. Maybe the Bucks game was a little bit of a preview of maybe what they can do, but on the same time, I think those guys, there's a level of being on the field with someone and playing, and Josh Hill is someone, and you make sure you guys go to NewOrleans.Football / subscribe, and you wrote about this on in one of your articles about. He's not someone that you just automatically like, oh, Josh Hill, okay, you'll be fine, the number 2 or 3 tight end, or however you want to classify him. But he's an important guy. He allows you to do so much formationally. And now we don't know the status of Taysom, right? Did he have a concussion? How long is that going to last? Is he going to play this week? And that's another guy who can let you do some things formationally. So it just seems like it's always something, and maybe that's most teams. I think it's fair to say the Saints, I guess injury-wise, have had a little luck other than the Drew and the Mike injury, which those are 2 like all-pro guys, right? I mean, that's like crazy. But just they at the end of the season, all of their guys are like available though. Like they're going to be available to play instead of like the Eagles, like they lost their whole O-line before the season started, and they was playing 5 backups by the last game. So lucky is not the right word, but I think coming into the playoffs, maybe if you look at like teams who've lost, what percentage of their starters to injured reserve, they're, I think the only person I can think of is Quan Alexander, and for the rest of the part, most of those guys will be available. So I guess that's a little bit of a optimistic way to look at it. Pessimistically, you would like to see them on the field all year, but yeah, how much do you think it would affect them maybe not having Taysom or Josh Hill? Because I think those are, like you wrote, I think those are 2 like under the radar guys who availability is, kind of in question at the moment.
Yeah, I think it would hurt them too, just because those are 2 very good run blockers, and you take both of them out, and then you're kind of losing that a little bit.
What about Big Fish? Big Fish is a beast run blocker now, though, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like you can have 3 of them. You can have 3 of them out there.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of different things with them. You're already without Traquan Smith. I know Callaway's had some key blocks, but I think if you really dig into it, I mean, there is some inconsistency there on some other plays. So
yeah,
definitely more highs than lows, but I think he has more lows than Traquan Smith did. And I mean, look, that's to be expected. It's a 3rd round pick, or he was a 3rd round pick, right? 3rd round pick versus
a 3rd round pick.
3rd round pick versus an undrafted guy in his rookie season. I mean, there's going to be some, differences there.
I've been really impressed with Callaway, man. I have to admit, undrafted free agent, like, man, like if
the UDFA thing off him, like he's a legitimate, good player. Like if he was a drafted player and he was coming on late in the season, you would be. It's the same feeling as with Troutman. I think they're both coming on late in the season. You're seeing the signs, and I think you're real optimistic about year 2 for both those guys. So
I think you make a good point. Like, don't put the UDFA label in front of him. He's just a good player.
That. Yeah, he has surpassed that at this point. I have legitimate expectations for him heading into year 2. Like legitimate expectations of him to be like a good, solid number 3 receiver with upside even from there. Like he's looked that good so far. I don't want to put too much on him, but like I think he's earned that expectation. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, you can make a case that he's had a fast start to Traquan, maybe, went on the field, so I'm with you. I'm totally with you.
But yeah, I mean, Hill had a finger injury. I think. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, there was some thought about IR. They obviously didn't put him on there, so that's a good sign. It is just a finger. Look, I mean, he played in the playoffs one year with like a finger legitimately like coming out sideways.
I hate seeing that, man. It like makes me like squirm so much.
Yeah. So I mean, I think he can still play. Like if they want to rush him out there, I think that you could probably find a way around that, and he can still block and everything.
Big old cast on his hand or something. Yeah.
I've been grinding to find out about Taysom. Nobody's saying anything, so we'll see. I mean, the practice report's gonna tell all there. So, but yeah, I mean, look, both those guys, and people can say what they want about Taysom as a quarterback. He's an X factor in the other role, and I think everybody that reads and listens to us talk is aware of that. So we don't really need to justify it at this point.
Yeah.
If you're here, you're
you know the vibes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. So I mean, yeah, getting him, it would just take a lot out. Look, I mean, they have him out there, and that's the difference between 8 personnel packages and 18. And in those 18 personnel packages, that's how you hide things, and you can run the same play 7 times in a game and make it look different, and just keep doing the same thing over and over and over, and just beat the brakes, or just smash somebody with something over and over. So
yeah,
they need them. I think it's important. It's definitely it's up there with Mike Thomas and everything else. Like I think it's not quite Mike Thomas level, but it's very important.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, I think he's an important player, and just him being in a game, a defensive coordinator, you just have to be ready for the Taysom package, right? And that matters. Like I've seen I've seen players mention. I think Tyrann Mathieu mentioned it. He was like, preparing for Taysom Hill is. I'm not going to mention the whole quote because he said it's harder than Brees. I think he did, which that's his quote, whatever. But just the fact that this guy can do so much, and if he's going to run, if he's going to pass, where he's going to line up. He's like, there's just so much that comes with preparing for him. So my guess is they're going to be, you got to prepare for him regardless of what his status is this week. But just knowing that he's going to go, make a player making a comment like that kind of just speaks, to how important, he is, to this team. So getting into the game, and as you said, guys, the Saints, I'm glad the game was on Sunday. If it was on Saturday, then AK, may not be available. Hopefully he stays asymptomatic. I think the way that the COVID protocols would have worked, that maybe, I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Sunday is the earliest that he could have returned. I think it, or something along those lines. So the game was on Sunday, but yeah, they played the Bears this game. And so let's just get into, some of the matchups, and, I'll give you, open forum here. Like, just starting with the Bears, what are some of the more intriguing matchups going into this game that you are going to be keeping your eyes on?
Yeah, look, just going back to something you said a second ago, though, about Honey Badger's comment, like Herm Edwards, I believe it was, he had a ranking of the hardest quarterbacks to prepare for, and like 1 through 5 were all guys that could move and get out of the pocket and do different things. And then I think Brady was like 6, and Brady took offense to it or whatever.
I remember that. Okay, yeah.
But I think the notion was just that, like, look, there's one guy in the pocket, and you have to account for him in the pocket, and then you got to account for somebody that can get out of the pocket and do all this stuff. It changes the coverages you can play, and you got to keep eyes on them. They can't run all that stuff. So
man coverage is a lot harder against those guys. Yeah, you make a good point there.
So what are we talking about, the Bears?
Yeah. Just what are some of the matchups in this upcoming game versus the Bears that you're going to keep your eyes on, and that you think are going to be key to the Saints getting past this wild card round, which is weird. Number 2 wild card, like, come on. But anyway, go ahead.
It's so stupid.
Yeah, it's so
dumb. At least they got the Sunday game. They lost the bye, but they possibly get Alvin back. So I guess that's something. At least you aren't completely empty-handed. It'd be terrible to be 2 and then not have your best player on the field. Yeah, because they decided to take away the game and didn't want to give you a break in the scheduling and have the best player in the league playing. So at least they were smart there. I hate that. Like, I agree with Vegas. Like, there isn't anything here outside of Akeem Hicks versus whoever plays right guard that I'm like really highlighting is something. There's that, and then Allen Robinson is the other thing. Trubisky on some extended plays, that's another thing. But there's nothing that really jumps out is like, these are the ultra important things they got to do, except for, I think, stopping Akeem Hicks. And he wasn't healthy in the last game. I think he went against Ruiz most of that game. He never rushes over the left guard, and they'll change that now because I just said that, and that'll be the wrinkle or whatever.
He's gonna get worked all game.
Like, literally, like 0% the whole entire season. Everything is on that right side, and it's it's over the nose, over the right guard, and then off the edge on that side. Everything's from that side of the field.
Maybe he is like Pete.
So yeah, I mean, like, so whoever plays right guard is gonna have their hands full. I think that's the biggest matchup of the game. And it's going to be interesting to see which way they go. I was surprised that Easton was out there in this game. I thought Ruiz was on the come up a little bit the last couple of weeks, and then they switched it up again. And it's just you get to the end of the season, and the question at the beginning is the same one at the end of the year, and it's just they went the whole year, and I don't think ever really answered the thing. We started out in camp. Can Ruiz play center? No, he can't. So he's a guard. Then is he going to get good enough at guard? That by doing the switches, they're telling you that he hasn't quite ascended to that level where they're 100% comfortable, and he's solidified that spot. So, here we are, and that's the question that still has to be answered.
He has played well, like better the last few games too. And I actually text you. I was like, "Hey, is he rounding the corner?" Because I think I was like, "Well, okay, he's starting to look like a first round pick." But yeah, I guess they feel better about Easton, which I guess I understand.
I never got quite to the first round pick, but he was getting better. Like, he was looking better. He was looking more confident. There were still too many mistakes, I think, but like it felt like between the two, like he had evened it, and then the potential to go further. I don't know. It's weird. It's something that we're probably not ever going to get an honest answer on. That would be like an owners meetings question to Sean. Like, once everything's over and he's trapped at the table for an hour, and then he's got to start truth telling. But like, we're never going to get the real answer on those.
Like, some of those blocks he had, I was like, "Woo, okay, that's a little dominant." Like he flashed like some really.
He definitely did.
Yeah, he flashed some plays. I was like, "Man, just do this every play, right?" It's not that easy, but. When some of those plays he flashed, I was like, okay, that's the guy that you thought you were going to be getting most of the year, which, maybe like Eric McCoy, right? Which McCoy has kind of turned to, I think he had a rough start. He's been playing pretty good lately, I think. But yeah, I think when you look at that right guard spot, it's just, you don't know what game you're going to get who. I mean, they could literally start Ruiz this game over Easton, and I have no idea why they chose one over the other. So
yeah, no, I'm the same way. It's just like, oh, okay, it's an Easton day. But
yeah, exactly.
It's not even like you can really question it. And then, oh, it's Ruiz. All right, that's fine. That's how they're rolling. All right, I get it. Yeah, it's just, you know what I mean? I'm with you though. It's just like, who's out there, and then it's like, okay, and I don't even question it. It's like, I'm not like, why are they doing that? It's just like, oh, okay, this is how they're going with it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So just looking on the offensive side of the ball for the Saints and Bears on defense, one thing that I want to keep an eye on, and guys, just a quick heads up, Nick wrote a pretty in-depth article just breaking down some of the coverages the Bears play and how they run the offense and some of the things they do offensively and defensively on NewOrleans.Football. Make sure you guys go there, subscribe, pick a tier, pick whatever one works best for you. We can only scratch the surface on the amount of information in that article. And I may or may not have gotten an early peek at it. It's good. It's out there. It's been live for a day or two. So make sure you guys go check that out. But one of the things that I want to keep an eye on is, man, they've been running the ball the last couple of weeks. And, I think that's something that, going into the playoffs, I feel like they're doing that as good as they've done it all year. I don't know what got into Terron Armstead. I don't know who upset him. I don't know what happened, but he's been playing out of his mind, especially in the run game. Coach Payton even mentioned it. So getting Alvin back is another thing. I mean, they just lost all their running backs, brought in a slot wide receiver and ran for 100 yards on 18 carries. So, I mean, it's Carolina. They're not the best team, but like, that goes to show the depth and talent of this team. But I just think if they're able to sustain that run game at the level or close to the level that they've done it over the last couple of weeks, I think that bodes well. And these are not two good defenses they played, right? So you're not going to play the Vikings and the Bears. The Vikings and the Carolina Panthers every week. But, if you're good at running the ball, you should be able to run the ball. So I think that's something that going into the playoffs, I think it'll give, it'll open up the offense a lot more if that aspect of the game is on point and performing well.
Look, I'm just going to say this because I got to defend myself against the slander that I've faced recently throughout the year. And look, this is mostly directed at Evan Silva, who decided to keep bringing up CJ Spiller to me every time I mention Ty Montgomery. And look, I will take the lumps on CJ Spiller right out the wrong player.
Shout out to Evan.
But even this week, I kind of had an inkling that Alvin wasn't going to play before I reported it. And I was just like, man, you guys should start hyping up Ty Montgomery over on your site. And he started making some comments. And I'm just going to say, anybody that watched Ty run in training camp, and there were only a handful of us, was not surprised by what he did, because this is how he played the whole summer. And he was explosive. He was good behind that offensive line.
Yeah,
he hit the spots. And that's what he looked like all summer. And that was the reason that, you go in there, you see him break off these runs. And it's just like, he had the 37-yarder. We saw that same play multiple times during camp. And you see that, and those are the moments you're going to start hyping. And, there just wasn't enough room for him in the offense this year.
And he got hurt, and it was a lot of things.
He got hurt. Alvin was incredible. Murray ran the ball well. There just really wasn't space for a third runner. They moved him to wide receiver. I think that makes him a little bit one-dimensional. Where does he fit in the receiver room?
It's like
there's
one
not
or two plays a game where he can't get no rhythm going. I'm with you. Yeah.
There just wasn't any room for him on the team. There's just too many good players on the team for him to find the spot. In a year where they don't have a lot of good play, a Travaris Cadet type season, he would have been a better version of Travaris Cadet, which is kind of how I sold him all summer. But he looked good, and that's what he's expected to do. So if they had to turn to him for, like I said earlier, if there's 5 or 6 plays that you want to put in and you don't feel comfortable running them with Alvin because he didn't practice them, I think now that Ty can hit that edge and
go.
he can do what he's got to do, and especially running to the left side of the line where Terron's beating people out the slide L. He's blocking guys, just in the Mississippi. He's playing incredible. And
it's crazy, man. He's so good right now in the run game, and for sure in the run game.
I call him the best player in the league. And look, I don't actually I don't know if he's better than Aaron Rodgers, but he's in the conversation the last 2 weeks. He's playing as well as anybody in the league that I've seen play what he does specifically. It's just been at such an incredibly high level. And, I think that, he's probably still fighting through some injuries like he usually is at the end of the year. I'd be surprised if he's totally healthy. He had a hand thing. I wouldn't be out here saying that he's, all the way there or whatever, because he's probably not, but I think he's handling it better. I think he's probably more healthy at this point at the end of the year than he usually is. And
did he miss a week before those 2 games that he played too? Maybe, I don't know, maybe a week off.
He caught coronavirus. Yeah.
So, maybe a week off just kind of let him.
Yeah. He looks awesome though. Yeah. I don't think he's been playing at this level going into the playoffs before. Maybe it's recency bias, but I don't remember it. I don't think Alvin's been playing at this level going into the playoffs. Those 2 pieces, if you got to run that runner, behind that guy blocking when things get tough, it's not a bad thing to have in your pocket.
You don't just see, it's not common when you see someone drive a guy 30 yards down the field. Maybe 30 yards being generous, from one hash to the almost, I don't know, if he was 10 yards deep into the sidelines. You just don't see guys do that. So
he had the play where you saw the guy rushing off the right edge and came across behind the line and just he got his hands on him just enough to disrupt the rush so that he didn't
totally out of his peripheral too. He's blocking this way and he's not blocking anyone on that play. Sees the guy rushing free and just athletic enough and smart enough to get over there and get some hands on the guy and keep Drew clean. That may be the most impressive thing he's did that he's done, because that block was, not many guys can even get there. So
he's an unbelievable talent.
Yeah.
Man.
And
he is unbelievable.
He pancaked the defensive lineman. I think it was, who they played for Minnesota? Somebody, I forget. Maybe it was Minnesota, but I'm with you, man. It was just, he's just been insane. And if he can keep it up.
An offensive tackle went viral, Odell catching a pass. That doesn't happen. An offensive lineman went viral because he was doing things that were just so incredible and exciting to watch. That is not normal. That guy is not normal, man.
I don't have any other comeback to that. If an offensive lineman goes viral, it's either really good or really bad.
It's unbelievable, man. The way he's playing is just it's it's fun to watch. It really is. It's fun to watch.
So staying on the offensive side of the ball, listen, I hate that we have to, I won't say drive this narrative, but maybe even address it. But what are you seeing out of Drew? How's his arm looking? Is he washed? Can he not throw the ball 10 yards down the field? Can they run anything past 10 yards, 15 yards in the play? How's Drew's looking? How's his arm looking? Did the break help him? What's up with Drew?
I think he looks awesome. Honestly, I think he's definitely, there were a couple of points in that game where it's just all right, he's ready. It's good. If they need to take him out of this game, that's fine. He's done everything he needed to. I honestly think when he came back, he was able to put more on the ball than he expected to. And I think there was some inconsistency with those throws down the field with the accuracy. A couple of them, were a little too long and then just a little bit off the mark. And it took him a few weeks to get dialed in. Him having those 3 weeks, I think was definitely a benefit to him. I wouldn't use the word rusty. I don't know that, he necessarily looked rusty, maybe at first in that first game coming back, but there were just some things throughout. Just get on the same page with some of these guys that he doesn't necessarily play with, a whole lot. Callaway, him and Jared Cook took a little while to get back to where they were. If they have him going into the playoffs, it's going to be a big benefit. And
you made the point over and over again, like how Drew will stick with a guy if he's struggling, to get him on the same page to pay dividends down the road. Where, when Brady would be like, hey man, you got 2 weeks to catch a seam route or you're out of here. So yeah, I think that's significant. If you can get him confident, get him going, get him playing well, that's the guy that can take the offense to another level. Like, he's one of those players where they can become unstoppable if he can't be guarded. So yeah, he's an important guy.
Yeah, and I think people are seeing that side of Brady a little bit more in Tampa Bay, some more frustrated moments, cussing at the sideline, on the field, all that stuff. So, but yeah, I mean that's definitely who he's been as a player, and then Drew's the opposite, and yeah, it's important, and they can get that going. And look, I don't think Cooks had the season that we thought he was going to have. I was super high on him. I thought this was about to be his superstar season. Where he finally put together all the potential, all the bouncing around. He found his home. It came together for him. It didn't necessarily work out quite like that. But if he gets dialed in and these next 4 games, he plays up to his potential like he did down the stretch last year, all's forgiven. And that's all they really need to do. And that's really all the season's been about, is the whole time has just been building and surviving and scratching and clawing and doing what you got to do to get here right now to where you're going into the Bears game. And now everything needs to gel going forward. And
right.
He can be a big part of that. But yeah, I think Brees is ready. I think he's throwing the ball better than he has in quite a while. The ease of going down the field, I don't remember seeing it like this. I don't, like the last couple of years. They're calling legitimate shot plays for him, which is something I don't think we've seen a whole lot of since Brandon Cooks left town.
Cooks. I think
Ted Ginn, the first year with Ted Ginn in 2017, they called a lot of those, and then it went away.
Okay, that's a big deal. I mean, because if the more field the defense has to cover, the easier it is for the offense, right? And so if you have a quarterback whose arm is compromised and the defense is playing in the condensed field, it's like you're in the red zone all the time. So yeah, just having him being able to push that ball. And listen, we're not saying he's throwing 50, 60-yard bombs. That's because that's not even the definition of an explosive play. An explosive play is anything over 20 yards, right? And yeah, he did. But if he's throwing the ball 20 yards and it's getting there and it's looking good and it's got some spin on it, that's all you need. You don't, that defense that's a nightmare for defenses, right? Because now you're guarding a lot more field with, Emmanuel Sanders, Mike Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Jared Cook, Taysom Hill, so it just opens up things a lot more. So
I don't think that, the effect of that throw to Emmanuel Sanders too, I think it's just wide ranging to a point where just the impact of knowing that Drew can throw the ball down the sideline like that against cover 2, when early in the season they were like, oh, we aren't throwing the ball down the field because they're playing cover 2 and we don't attack cover 2. That was basically the excuse when everybody was like, oh, where are all the air yards? And they're like, well, teams are playing too deep.
Too deep safeties.
Well, they played too deep there and he hit that ball down the sideline. And it's just, you got to show it. And now that teams know that he can do it, that's going to change the way you play that coverage a little bit. So it's if you can show 50, hit 20, I mean, man, it opens up everything. And now you got Mike Thomas underneath with, a little bit more space, because, that strong safety and the free safety can't sit on him the same way when he's running that slant or the quick out, or, it's just, he breaks a tackle and now there's 9 yards of space instead of 3. Like, it's just, it just changes everything.
That's a good point.
And it opens things up just a little bit more. So yeah, I mean, if he can just keep convincing teams that's there, and I think it's legitimately there. It's not even like, you got to fool them. It's legitimately there. And that's going to make them a much more dangerous team in the postseason.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. That it changes the way teams defend you. And, I think you bring up the kind of the final guy that I, just want to touch on a little bit is it's crazy. Like, like we talk about this team and we break down this team and we have all these conversations about the Saints and if they're playing well and if they're not and what guys are performing in the offense and Drew Brees and whatnot. And his biggest weapon offensively the last 2 years have not been available to him, right? And I think and we said this. We were saying this earlier in the year. We were saying, well, we can't. It's hard to evaluate the Saints without looking at Mike Thomas. But you got to play the games, right? But if you really want to know what this team is and what they can do, then he has to be a part of that equation. And so with him coming back, do you think, like, how do you think that affects, maybe how they defend? You think teams, you think they like bracket Mike initially, or you think they kind of just single him up and see what they got, and it maybe opens it up for the rest of the defense to play a little bit more loose? Like, that's a big addition to me, because I think Sean Payton said, yeah, we're getting a couple of all-pro players with Deontay Harris, and he's a guy that can be on offense too. I mean, instead of maybe number 14, whose name will not be said. So yeah, just getting Mike back. Just touch on that a little bit before we move to the other side of the ball. What's the effect of him, returning from IR this week?
I think that the main thing with him is you go 0 to 20, and I think everybody usually gets one-on-one. Sometimes Mike gets double teamed, and sometimes he gets bracketed, but I think it gets everybody better looks. And I think these last few weeks we've seen a lot of double coverage on Emmanuel Sanders. That 2 weeks ago, I think they kind of just sacrificed him. He was getting that kind of coverage, and they just decided they were going to beat them with everybody else. And then in this last game on third downs, especially, you saw them working to get two players on him. And then in the red zone, Jared Cook would see some double teams. And I think when Mike's out there, it just kind of spreads you so thin, because then you got Alvin too, and you got to worry about him underneath, that it becomes hard to throw two guys on one person, and you get stuck in this numbers game. And, I also think it becomes a little bit harder to double Mike is with that, shallow intermediate guy. It takes two people when you do have to respect the ability of Brees to throw the ball down the field a little bit, and you got to cover those, more of the field and more spaces on the field. So I think when he comes out there, it's going to help Emmanuel Sanders get a lot better looks. It's going to help Jared Cook get open more. And, those guys have still produced, basically being covered as if they were the man in the offense, and they aren't intended to be in that role. Like, they're supposed to be playing off of Mike. Mike's supposed to be opening things up for them, and they're supposed to be able to, get the coverage that Marquez Callaway is getting when Mike's not on the field and everybody shifted on Emmanuel Sanders. So they start defending Emmanuel like they're defending Marquez Callaway. It's going to make things easier on him. And, I just think that it makes it a lot easier for everybody else on the team to eat.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that was well said. Just I think we said it not last week because you flew solo, but just the week before, maybe, just that those guys who are, maybe, I don't want to say number one, but if you're the Saints, if Emmanuel Sanders is the number one and Mike Thomas isn't playing, like, those guys probably aren't, that's not their ideal position to be in, right? Like you said, if Mike is out there, then Emmanuel gets less attention, and then everyone else then Cook gets less attention, and maybe Marquez Callaway, and it's a trickle down effect. And then, you can't maybe play certain coverages, and then now the deep ball is that maybe they're a little bit better. So I think it kind of just opens up everything. It kind of does offensively in some ways what a shutdown corner does to you defensively. It kind of gives you, in defense, it gives you less space in which you have to operate. In offense, it gives you more space to operate. And yeah, I just think it'll be good having them back. I'm not sure how much rust there'll be there. I'm pretty sure there'll be some. It may take them a game to get going. You feel like they can, beat this team if that's the case. But yeah, I think getting him back is significant. So,
well, honestly, I think if Mike's in shape and healthy and ready to go, I don't think it's. Yeah, I don't think it's like, I don't think that the connect, like the Brees Mike Thomas connection thing. I honestly don't think that's a thing. I don't think Mike needs I think Mike has chemistry with any quarterback he plays with if the quarterback understands the playbook, because Mike's going to be exactly where he needs to be. Yeah. It's, last year Drew comes back 11 for 11. He plays with Teddy, no problem. He plays with Taysom, no problem. Like, Mike's going to be where Mike needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, he was playing well before he went out. Like, he was playing well, then he stopped, right? And so you would like to think that he's healthier. And Mike is, I say this as a compliment, like, football wise, he's a little psycho in a good way. And so I'm pretty sure in his head, he's like, man, my season hasn't been like I planned it out. So I need to get that work in these playoffs. So, yeah, I think having him back is going to be significant. On the other side of the ball, one of the matchups that I'm looking for the Saints to be able to exploit And we'll see how much. I mean, I know they probably want to get the ball. Listen, I think when you're playing quarterback, the longer Mitch Trubisky has the ball in his hands, the worse it is for the offense. But I think the Saints can pass rush this offensive line. I think they should be able to run stop this offensive line. The Saints do a good job of stopping the run. I think more than any team in the NFL, like most teams, and I read this somewhere, I forget where I read it, the numbers, but the film said, you see it, you've seen it on film and anyone else, that they don't load the box to stop the run. They stop the run with a 7-man, sometimes a 6-man box. They don't put 8 guys in the box to stop the run, where some teams do. And I think, that is part of what makes them, good defensively. Also, if you can stop the run with a non-loaded box, then that gives you a chance to play more guys in coverage on downs where you're not sure if it's a run or a pass. But just looking at the offensive line of this team, I think, the Saints, if you can get them in third and long, some third and longer distances, I think they have a good chance to pass rush these guys, because I don't think they block that well up front. And so I think that's something that could be a strength for the Saints going into this game.
Yeah, they're a zone running team too, and for people that they've seen it, it's just when guys are blocking a spot on the field as opposed to man to man, and then the guy hits it outside or up the middle. So that's how they run the ball. Montgomery, everything he does behind it. The Saints don't give up yards on inside zone runs. It's like 2.4 on the season. So if they can hold up on that, it'll be fine. Getting to the outside, they've given up a little bit more yardage, but that's skewed because there's just been a couple of big plays during the season. One of them against Philly, and that was a play where Quan Alexander gave up his gap, and they had that huge run down the left sideline. So like a couple of plays like that kind of skewed that a little bit. But I think if you and I don't want to start being like if you lift it out, but if you lift out a couple of plays, like it's down more into the 3 yards per carry range. So they match up well, I think, in those plays. I just said Quan gave one up, but I do think like on those outside zones, that is one area where you might miss his range a little bit. I don't think it's going to be a difference in the game, but that is a spot where that click and go is where he kind of shined when he did diagnose things right. It happened early and he got there quick.
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he fails and fail. If he's going to fail, he's going to fail fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, their line, I think their tackles are okay. Overall though, it's definitely a line that you can beat with your 4-man rush, I think. And then you blitz here and there and you pick your spots.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think that they got to do is they got to be, and I'm not comparing him to Jalen Hurts because he's not Jalen Hurts. He's not going to get out. Well, he could get out and run for 100 yards, but it's not a strategy where that's going to happen. But if you aren't rushing him disciplined and you got Trey Hendrickson not, keeping the integrity on the edge and getting too high up the field, and he can get out and extend the play, like he will do that and he will hurt you with it. And
yeah,
but the thing is, if you're stopping the run, you're taking away the play action. He only played 6 or 7 games this year. He had 90 play action attempts. Which is, a very high number for the amount of snaps he had. So you stop the run, you take that away, you're taking the bootleg away. And if you're telling him he's got to stand in the pocket and make his throws,
you're beating. He lost. Yeah, he was over. Yeah. That's not his game. Like I said, the longer he holds the ball, the better for the Saints, because that's not his game. So yeah, I'm with you. I was going to ask you, have you seen a difference? I mean, it's been one game, but with Quan out and Anzalone in kind of back starting. How much of an effect do you think that'll kind of have on, what they do defensively, and if anybody can exploit it?
I think they'll be okay. Like Anzalone isn't as, there's a reason when Quan came here, Quan was playing before him. Quan's he's a more explosive player.
Better player.
He blitzes well. He does more. I think he covers a little bit better. I do think Anzalone's more disciplined in the run game, and he'll be solid. He's not going to make the flash plays, but he's probably not going to give up as many things. But he's not going to cover as well either. And you don't want to have him end up on Travis Kelce, going up the seam. But you're okay with it when it happens to be Quan. So I think there's ways that you got to protect him. I think that maybe in some situations. You mentioned that box, I think Quan helped with that, but I think that maybe you give some of that up in some situations to put another safety on the field and you give yourself, a little bit more in coverage in some situations. But I don't think it's a massive hindrance. I think Anzalone's a good enough player. I think they can win with him. It's just you aren't going to get those game-changing plays out of him, which I think you do sometimes with Quan. But again, I think you're more susceptible to a mistake. Yes.
Yeah. I'm with you. Yeah, I think one thing that does help is the fact that there are so many good players on the team that, I know they played the Panthers, but they brought in a slot safety slot corner from the practice squad, Haley, and we just came in and got an interception and played well enough for them guys to get a win. So I think when you have a certain amount of talent in front of you and behind you as a linebacker, I think that maybe a guy with some deficiencies can be hidden, right? With a good pass rush, a good coverage, you're not going to be putting maybe some of those opportunities. Like this isn't like Brandon Browner was not a good player here, but the talent made it worse, right? So I think it's, that's the extreme, but that's just a kind of example of, when guys are around you, you tend to play a little bit better. And Marcus Williams, right? He's had a great year, but it seems like he kind of ebbs and flows with the teams, right? When the team is playing well, then he can kind of be a little bit more loose and, play his game a little bit more. So.
Yeah, two things. Well, Marcus definitely had the best season of his career. And I don't know if we talked about it enough. We talked about it a lot, but I still don't feel like we talked about it enough.
Really good.
He changed his game, his tackling and everything. That's got to continue through the postseason.
He did, right, was his tackling. Like he missed like 2 tackles this year or something really low.
There's a story on NewOrleans.Football about how he spent his offseason improving his tackling that we wrote before the season. And then the other thing, how about Ken Crawley? Like he comes in, he plays one play and tracks the ball out of the air. Like 2017, 2018 never happened where he couldn't get his head around and pick the ball out of the sky. He played one snap, and in the one snap just showed the one thing he had to show everybody he could do, and he was good. He made his catch and he was gone. It was like Brandon Coleman. Brandon Coleman would make his one catch a game and then he was done. But like kind of actually like made his one catch and just left the field and he's like, I'm good.
Dude, he tracked the football in the air.
Unbelievable. It was a really good play. Like it wasn't the greatest throw or anything. Like it was there for the taking, but like he tracked it through the air and made a play. Like he deserves the credit.
I text you as soon as the play happened, all caps. I'm like, bro, did he just track the football in the air? Like I was like, no, because I saw the play. I was like, okay, this is an incomplete pass. Then I saw who was, and look, man, he deserved this, but like I saw who was back there. I was like, okay, incomplete. Then he caught it. I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, the one thing that he couldn't do I ain't gonna say the one thing that he couldn't do, but man, when that ball got in the air, he'd be in position and he'd panic and it'd just be a reception every time. Like if he developed the ability to track the ball, I think there would be no Janoris Jenkins. Maybe he would have been a decent enough number 2 corner to stick around, but
his coverage was really good in 17. It was really good in 17. And then I think he took a little step back in 18. Probably didn't work the way he needed to work or something. I don't know. Like something happened that he just didn't continue up. But yeah, I mean the main thing was that he'd either not spot the ball or he'd spot the ball and panic, like you said.
Yeah.
And like if he had developed that skill between 17 and 18. He would have been a great corner, like not a great, but he would have been a very high end number 2. Like he has the shadow and all those skills. The ability to stick with someone. He technically plays press pretty well. Like he did a lot of things well. It was just
DPI waiting to happen, man. So yeah, it's good. It's good to he's around. And I mean they have depth. I think Patrick Robertson should be back eventually one of these games. You're getting Chauncey Garner-Johnson back. You're getting Marcus Williams back. You got Marshawn. I mean,
P-Rob was close last week. So
P-Rob was close. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, the team feels like they're, defensively as full strength as they're going to be, right? I mean, you look on the line. Rankin seems to be healthy enough to get his snaps in. Davenport is back. Trey Henderson missed a game. You lost Corn Alexander, but the guy who was starting at the beginning of the year is still there, and he's not a high end linebacker by no means, but maybe around the average area, which should be able to scheme around that. And then the guys, you got all your secondary guys healthy. So yeah, and Malcolm Jenkins, I just totally didn't bring him up, but yeah, it looks like defensively, they're looking good, and that kind of just segue and just quickly, like, what do you think needs to happen over the course of this playoff run for it to be successful. And it's not, hey, what would a successful playoff run entail, like Super Bowl or not? It's like, what does this team they have to do? They have to play, what is defensively, offensive, special teams? Like, what do you think they have to do, like, as a team to play, to get to a point where to have a successful playoff run, to make a run at this thing?
I think it's three things, and I think they're all fairly obvious. One, Mike Thomas has to come back, pick up, be good. It can be slow going at first, but by the second game, I think it's got to be full go, and everything looks like it normally looks. The second thing is the right guard, whoever it may be, needs to be able to protect Brees, keep guys out of there, not get the quarterback hurt. And then the last one, and I think this is probably the biggest one, is that I think the field goal operation needs to be cleaner. I know Lutz is catching some heat, but I don't know if it's all just Lutz. The punting, the distance on some of those, I don't think it's been as consistent as it has been in the past. And then Deontay Harris, I think they need him healthy, and I think they need him back there as the returner. That game-breaking ability at some point is going to show up, and every yard counts in the playoffs. So I think those are, kind of the things, and those have been the things, pretty much the whole season, and it's still true, all the way here at the end.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think health is a big thing. That's probably the number one thing, is Mike and, Drew staying healthy and not taking another rip shot. I'd like to see, make sure the right guard spot doesn't become a liability. That's something that's like maybe more second tier. I feel like they kind of got that figured out on some level, and they're a good enough team that they're not going to let that just come. They're not going to just lose. Let that one spot kind of make them, continue to struggle on offense, hopefully.
One play, man. One play could.
One play, yeah, that's true. So that's a spot. I think, I want to see the defense, continue to dominate and maybe even take it up a notch, right? I think there's always another level. I think Marshawn locking in, just send Marshawn fake tweets with Allen Robinson's handle on them and print them all out and say, man, this dude don't think you belong in the NFL, right? Just get him motivated, right? Oh, okay. Yeah. So anyway, that's another one. And I guess me being a D-line guy, I just want to see the pass rush take it up another notch. I think there's another level that this pass rush can reach, and I think this is the time to get there. Onyemata is someone he's had a great year, right? He's had a great year, but get your name called out a little bit more. I think Davenport needs to learn to finish pressures. That's something in the offseason. He'll get there, but he's not closing it. That's the difference between, someone like, Trey Henderson having the season that he's having versus, you being with a bad, stuck with a bad nickname and people saying they shouldn't give you your fifth-year option. And it's fair criticism, right? So I just think those are a few of the things that they can do. And I think the Will Lutz thing that you brought up is just like, come on, like that's just, that's something that I kind of just assumed that it would be fine, and it's kind of become a little bit of an issue. I'm not sure if I didn't go back and check and see if something happened on that missed extra point. I don't know if Coach Payton talked about it, or if he hooked it, or I don't know. It was ugly, but he needs to play better. I don't think.
I think there might have been something a little bit off.
Yeah. So I think those are the things. Okay.
Look, the thing is, I agree with you on Davenport, and I do think that if we're talking season wide, I do think that there's probably some element of disappointment associated with his game. I thought he was going to elevate to be like a 10-sack guy. I thought when he first came back, there was a lot of impact. Then I thought there was a lull, and I think the impact is starting to come back a little bit. I think there was a good amount of pressure, especially this last game. I thought he played good in this game, but it hasn't translated.
He led the team in pressures this game.
It just hasn't. I don't think it's translated though the way it should have, and I think we're probably at a point with him where it's reached a point where it's no longer like if he gets better, if he does this, if he does that. Like it's 2 first-round picks into one player. It's 3 years. Like now's the time. But yeah, I do think there is an element. I'm not as down on him as some other people, but I am down on him in my own way. But I do think there is an element of him being in a role at times where I think that it's not necessarily his job to be the finisher, but the starter. And he kind of plays early in some of those pressures, and I think they aren't necessarily running as much stuff for him either. Like he was really good on stunts, and when he first came back, they were running a lot of those for him, and you saw him knocking on the door more. And I don't think there's been as many lately. And it's just some little scheme things. But look, he should be scheme independent enough on enough plays to where he's just working his way into a sack, every now and then, and 1.5. It's just not enough. It's just not enough. There is stuff there that's good, and sacks isn't the end all be all, but there should be, with his talent, his ability, there should be, some more than what there is, even if they aren't running all kinds of stuff for him.
I agree. Yeah. I'm with you. I just it's crazy to this day. He leads the team in pressure rate for defensive linemen. Like he has a higher pressure rate. He gets pressure at a higher percentage of the time than Cam Jordan, David Onyemata, and Trey Hendrickson. Right. But it's they're not being converted into sacks. And I think that's something that I'm not sure if it's how he's rushing. I know there's been a few plays where he's had his hands on a guy and they just barely got. I mean, I think it's a little bit of luck there. To be honest with you, if you look at the last game, the play before he created that turnover, that interception, I forget who caught the interception, but when he hit Walker, he got pressure before and he didn't get the sack. And there was a look on his face, and they showed it on TV, and I was like, man, he's frustrated. Like I saw it on his face. I was like, this is the look of a guy who has high expectation and knows that, there's a talking point out there that he's not reaching those expectations, because players listen to this stuff. They're humans like we are. And the very next play, I mean, he absolutely crushed Walker and was the catalyst for that interception pretty much. But, that play doesn't get recognized as
it's not a stat
or interception. It's just, he got the pressure, and, Trey Henderson got the sack early in the game. And so he had a better game because he got the sack. So he had 4 pressures in the sack, which is better than 5 pressures. And it created interception I think it's a little bit of that. Like I said, it's not the fact that he can't rush the passer. I just think that there's something missing there. Like the impact isn't there. There's a better player in there. And I don't know if we'll ever see it. I don't know. I don't know these guys. I can't speak to their motivations and anything other than what I see on the field, and I won't. But yeah, it's just a little bit. It's something to be desired, because like I said, when I look at the pressure numbers, I was like, and I looked at it. I think it was today I was texting. I was like, he has the highest pressure around the team, but people would say he's the 4th best pass rusher, right? And so that lets you know that there's like some disconnect there. So, okay, so moving on to the final topic, we are going to do some Saints regular season awards. So this should be fun. We'll blow through this topic pretty quickly because I don't think it's too controversial here. So I'll start with you because you got the opinions that people want to hear. Rookie of the year, Saints. Who are you going with? They got I don't need to
go with Callaway. I'm going with Callaway. I think Callaway's my rookie of the year. I just think that he stepped up in a tough role and delivered when they needed him, in a void. I'm not going to start talking about the other guy because I know there's really only other one option. So I'm just going to leave it there and just, I think it's kind of self-explanatory that Callaway just when needed, twice after Traquan went down, you saw him step up as a blocker earlier in the season when there were injuries. It forced him into a role where he had to start making plays as a receiver. Quietly, the Mike Thomas injury, I think, catapulted him up the depth chart, allowed them to figure some things out about him that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise. But when needed, he's been there all year.
Yeah, I'm with you. Just to play like devil's advocate, and so I'm not going to give the same guy that you give just because it's just more fun to have a little bit more analysis. But I would pick Callaway too. If I had to pick a second guy, I would say Troutman. I think he's been a pretty good run blocker this year. I think not for a rookie, he's just been a good run blocker. And I think there's like you said earlier, there's a lot of upside there. So maybe what we said about Cook last year, it'll get forwarded to Troutman. So okay, offense. Who's your offensive MVP for the season?
I mean, we can just say Alvin and just move right by this conversation.
That's fine. I'm gonna say Terron.
Really.
Not to pick a different guy. Like I said, I'm just not going to pick the same guy as you because it's not fun. But just another player who's in the mix. I would say Terron. I think Terron. I said it before. I think he's the best. I think he's the best tackle on the team. I think he's clearly put himself. I think he's clearly like is firmly in that position now. And so, yeah, I mean,
it's funny because that felt closer a year ago than it was, but I think that, comparatively speaking, like he's significantly been the best tackle on the team this year.
Yeah. I think last year was closer, but I still think he was better than Ramczyk. I think when we did the rankings, I think I put him above Ramczyk. And yeah, look, man, he's good. Ramczyk is good too. I think Ramczyk maybe hasn't had the year that he had. Maybe.
Yeah, see, they're telling us in the chat that we're wrong, but I don't think we are. Not this year. Not this year.
Oh, yeah. Look,
the consistency's been there more so from Terron, and I think his highs are higher. I think the line as a whole, the whole side of the line, and I think that there's probably some element of things happening. And I asked about this earlier, and they kind of said it was more, center guard is more dependent than guard tackle. But I do think that there's probably some element of just the moving parts on that side of the line, creating some things and
yeah, that's
some
probably
chemistry. And I think that probably has affected him some, taking Warford out of there and then just the revolving door. I think that's probably a part of it.
That's fair. I still think Terron is better though. I think Ram is a beast, and listen, but Terron is, yeah, he's been a better pass blocker, but this in the run game, what he's doing, I think is pretty significant. So, but okay, defensive. This is a fun one. I'm not gonna pick the same guy you're gonna pick just because let's make it fun. So who you got?
Defensive MVP.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a weird one.
I think I was about to get cute with it, but I think it's just you gotta play it straightforward. And I think it's probably definitely DeMario. It took him a little bit, I think, to get going in the season. It kind of collided with Quan showing up. He kind of hit his groove, but that was really the whole defense. The whole defense was a little bit out of sorts.
That's fair.
And I think whenever, especially a linebacker, I think when things are falling apart around you, that probably puts you in a lot of weird situations to clean up things and cover a lot of ground.
Yeah.
But he's been the player he is. I still think I don't know if he'll get the accolades this year with the All-Pro or anything, but I think from a certain point in the season, he was very obviously an All-Pro. His ability to blitz is incredible. It's just so impactful. When they send him, he's usually getting there.
24% of the time when he's not even just like they pass rush him, 24% of the time he's getting pressure. That's insane.
On 24% of his pass rushes, he gets pressure.
I looked it up. So that's 24.4, I think was the number. That's an insane number. That's a Von Miller number. Like that's Aaron Donald level. And I'm not saying he's those guys, but I'm talking about like percentage of getting there. That's how high that is. So yeah, that's a good name. Play devil's advocate. I thought about saying Trey, but I'm gonna go Marcus. I think Marcus.
That's where I was gonna go.
Just to pick another guy, like I said, just to pick another guy. Marcus has been, he's been good this year. I think he had maybe a play or two earlier in this year. I can't think of anything I saw him do on the field recently where I was like, oh wow, that was a bad play by Marcus. He's been really good, and man, he's earned himself some money. Yeah.
But, I do think that we need to just at least one of us needs to give Trey the honorable mention, because I do think that the season he had was very important, just in the sense of, we talked about Marcus not getting the sack numbers. I don't know if Cam got the sack numbers that you usually expect from him. Granderson's come on a little bit, but Trey, just finishing those plays, I think was highly important, and I think that played a big part in the defense being what it is.
Yeah, I saved Trey for a different one, but I did say I've thought about him, but it was between him and Marcus is my number two, and I know pass rusher is a sexier position, but Marcus has just been like Marcus. I think he played close to an All-Pro level at safety this year. If you're just talking only film, I think he's been really, really, really good this year. So, it's a tough one. I think Trey is. I think him and Marcus are probably 1 and 1A, right? But I just say Marcus because he doesn't get talked about a lot. People they only talk about him when he's having struggles, right? And not when he's playing as well as he is now. So that's kind of why I brought him up. It's like, hey man, this guy's playing well. Let's kind of give him a little bit of love. So this is gonna be the like most obvious one. Most improved.
I just said it.
Yeah. I'm trying. I was trying to think of someone else. I think number 2 would be Onyemata. I'd say Onyemata is probably my most improved player, other than Trey Henderson.
I don't even know if there's anybody else in that conversation besides those 2 guys.
Oh man,
there's really not.
Yeah, I don't think it is. Could you? I mean, I thought about Gunnar Johnson, but I don't think he. I think last year he played well. So I don't think saying improved is the right. Yeah, I don't think he's in the same tier.
We could make an argument for Marcus just based on the tackling and all that stuff. I think you could put him in there. Coverage wise, I think he's always been in that elite conversation. It's the finishing plays, and he has his improvement there is significant.
Yeah.
So if you were going to do like a second runner up, I think he would be the 3rd guy on the list.
Yeah. I'm with you. Someone mentioned Carl Granderson too. That's someone to think about too. He definitely he improved pretty well from last year to this year. So all right guys, so listen, I gave you guys a heads up a few minutes earlier. Start thinking about your questions, so when it was questions time, you guys will have some for us. So chat, this is the section of the pod where you guys get to drive it. So if anybody got any good questions, drop them in the chat and we'll answer them, because that's what we do. So we'll give you guys a few seconds to get a good one. I'll pick the first good question I see. So all right. That's okay. This is I kind of. So what are your thoughts on Morstead's play this year?
I think it's probably been a little bit inconsistent. I think that's probably something he would say about himself. I'm not sure why. This year with the reporting, it's different, and this isn't, that he hasn't been on a Zoom, and this isn't even probably a topic that I would want to engage in a public setting. It's kind of one of those things where you walk up to someone respectfully at their locker and kind of broach it in a way where you can have a conversation. And, frankly, I think he deserves to have that conversation before, I start espousing things that I'm not 100% sure on, because look, this is a complicated aspect of the game that there's things that you just don't know about, but there could be an injury there. It could be a million different things. And, I don't know. I know if you look at the net is kind of dropped a little bit year by year. And, if you look 4 years ago to now, there's, quite a drop. And, I think it's just been gradual a little bit, but I think there's been more weird punts this year than you're used to. And look, we all see it. Like we see these games, we see what's happening. They announce the distance on a punt, and there's just been a few that have been a little bit out of character. And for somebody as good as him, a punt that's decent for somebody else, it's like, wow, Thomas Morstead, like he didn't hit this, but it's just been that kind of year. And I don't know. It's something that I wish I could have that conversation though.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's hard. It's I try to like, be fair to every player and treat them all the same. But Morstead is one of those guys who, like, I don't know, man. I don't like saying anything bad about him, because it seems like he'll give you like his last. Man, I can't even conjure myself up to criticize him, right? But I do think that he has had a down year, right? And I think it's just he hasn't been as good as he's normally been, and just analyze him on the field and nothing other than that. I do think maybe his plays leave a little bit to desire, and they carried a second punter on the team the whole season on the active roster, right? I mean, I think
like this year's so weird that it could just be something like atmospherically, like there's not the same amount of adrenaline, and like there's just so many things happening this year that it's hard to know like what it is. And it's just, as a reporter, I want to be fair to somebody, and I don't know how to have this conversation without
I'm with
having a conversation.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. Okay, so next question. Hey, what's up, Ed? If you had to pick one player, both on offense and defense, or you could pick offense or defense, who becomes a star, who carries this side of the ball, who you think it is? So I guess he's saying it's become a star. So maybe someone who maybe people who are not familiar with the Saints will get to know.
I don't know who that would be on offense. It's tough. Defensively, I think that
Don't pick one.
if you're gonna go with someone that's gonna like introduce themselves, and if we're bypassing Trey Henderson, I think the easy answer there is Onyemata. I think he'll probably make a handful of plays, and someone will notice him, and they'll finally start realizing that the Manitoba Mauler isn't some mythical creature, and that he is a real player that's lurking out here in the streets, and you got to be aware of him. Offensively, I'm trying to think. Like, everybody knows Emmanuel Sanders, Jared Cook's been around forever, Mike Thomas, Alvin. It's tough. So, just bypassing like the breakout element of it, Callaway will probably make a handful of plays. So that could be one. But if I had to pick someone that like needs to carry him, and that's the guy, like, I think it's Mike, obviously. And as good as Alvin's been, I think Mike has to be. At this point, when we talked about the Saints before the season, my thing to you was, if Alvin's healthy at the end of the year, they win the Super Bowl. Like, it's reversed now, and it's on Mike's health, and that has to come together for them.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. This is an interesting question from Jason. We can answer these quick. Maybe we can answer a couple of questions if we blow through them fast. Who scares you more in the second round, the Bucks or the Seahawks?
Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm with you. Seahawks. I think.
They beat the Bucks twice, 38-3. They match up well.
Yeah.
I think it's 8 times since 2000 a team has played the third time in the playoffs. The team that won twice is 6-2. So it turns out that a team that you're able to beat and match up well against, you usually match up well against them no matter how many times you play. And so I don't buy that, the 3 times thing. I get the Brady in the playoffs element, but if you're Marquez Callaway and you're walking out onto the field for your very first playoff game, and you go out there and you look up in the stands and there's nobody in there, like, are you really shook by the playoff atmosphere? Does it feel bigger, or does it just feel like another game? So, mythical Brady in the playoffs is a thing, and, gets the crowd riled up and all that stuff. And it's just, but like when you're doing it in this atmosphere, I do wonder if it just feels very sterile and very much like a scrimmage, and if there is even a playoff atmosphere. And that's not something we can answer now, or anybody can answer until they're into it. But I do think that some of that stuff, that X factor stuff, dissipates a little bit. So, then I'm left looking at, kind of the matchups, and some of the stuff that Russell Wilson does have been some of the things that have been problematic for the Saints throughout the season. They've alleviated some of it, but a guy that can extend plays and throw it on the field, right, that's hurt them, multiple times this year. And as good as Brady is, and we mentioned the Herm Edwards, I believe it was Herm Edwards who said it, but or not Herm Edwards, Tony Dungy. Was it Tony? Yeah, I believe it was Tony Dungy was the one who made the comment about the guys that matched up. Mobile guys were higher. Look, Brady's in the pocket. You know how to play him. Like, he's going to be accurate. He's going to make his throws or whatever. But I just think that's a matchup that suits the Saints well. And we'll see if they got to play him a third time. But, there might be a major pie on my face for thinking that. But, I do think that I got to believe in what I saw them do against that team before. I don't think it'd be 38-3. It'd probably be 31-27, but I do like the matchup for the Saints.
Yeah, I think the Saints pass. I think they have the Bucks O-line number. I just think with Brady, you can just go straight for the quarterback. Like Russell Wilson, he terrifies me. Like
Trey's praying to see the Bucks, man. Trey's praying to see the Bucks.
I know, right? Because he's like, man, I'm definitely getting paid after this game. Where's Donovan Smith?
Trey goes into the playoffs against has another 3-sack game. Like Trey wants, like, Trey's begging for the Bucks. Trey wants Brady.
Yeah, that's. And, hey, I mean, listen, Aaron said what he said about Trey, so Trey got the right to the smoke. So, okay. So, question from Jimmy Neutron said the number one thing the Saints must do to avoid another early postseason exit.
All right, so I think it's just not coming out and playing flat. I think if they come out and they play their game and it's not like a weird Minnesota game. I don't think it's, I don't think it's a problem. I think they can win a couple games. That word another kind of drives me a little bit because I feel like people just like I don't think you can talk about Marshawn Lynch in relation to, Trey Hendrickson Saints. Like the punter was here, the quarterback was here. Who else? Like nobody else was here. Vernon Davis, same thing. Yeah. So like these old disappointments, I don't think pertain. I think you got to start talking about this team at the start of 2017. It's the start of a new era. It's a new chapter, and this team has its own identity. Well, there's, this. It's like power. Like, you got Tasha in here, but this is Tyreek's season now, and he's just a holdover from the previous chapter of the story. So, for this team, they had the Minnesota Miracle, but they won a playoff game that year. They should have went to the Super Bowl. I remember everybody here, being very upset about the things that happened in 2018. 2019 was the one bad season. So I think you gotta look at this team and not hold them to the sins of their fathers and let them be who they are. And I'm not coming at you here, Jimmy Neutron. But it's just something I see over and over, and it's just kind of like, this isn't really fair to this team. Like, it's not early exits. There's been disappointments, but I don't think the disappointments are that they can't win a playoff game. More often than not, they do win one.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think that's the take. Just evaluate them as this team, and I just think just coming out ready to play, man. And these are the playoffs. Every team is good, and so this is the Bears. I'm pretty sure they're not going to overlook them, and I'm pretty sure they'll be fine. So, all right,
my last Bears game was kind of tough, so like they definitely shouldn't have. They went to overtime. Like they definitely shouldn't overlook them.
Yeah. All right, last question from Go Saints. Best offseason acquisition for the Saints, Malcolm Jenkins or Emmanuel Sanders? That's a pretty good question.
I'm going to let you go first. I don't know.
Man, I don't know neither. If I had to choose one, I would say that I would go Sanders. I don't like this question. It's a really good question. I just don't like. I think that they have enough depth in the secondary to where if they lost Jenkins, they could be okay. You could put PJ there or Swearinger there. So I feel like I have to change the question to that because I don't know who's a better one. But I think that if you lost Emmanuel, that would be a bigger loss than Malcolm because, Emmanuel he's a high-end number 2 when the number 1 is there. And Malcolm, I won't say he's a luxury at this point, but, I think you can win with PJ. You can probably win with Swearinger. You could have kept Von Bell, I guess, right? Or, you can play Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in that spot and put Patrick Robinson out at corner. You got a lot of different options in the secondary. You got 3 more guys you can come in and play with. And with, wide receiver, I just feel like, if you lose Sanders, now you just got Mike back. Now you lose Sanders. Now you back to where you were last year. So I'll go Sanders just for that reason.
So I don't know. There's probably a point 3 weeks ago that I probably would have definitely went Malcolm on this question. And then, there was a couple games where I thought that there was a little bit of a dip and then he came back up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The PJ thing makes it interesting, but the luxury aspect of it, I mean, that could make it true because PJ exists. But I do think that his ability to play deep also kind of gives you a lot of things you can do. I think he probably plays in the box better than PJ does. So I think Malcolm's a key piece of your disguise. And
I agree.
It might be a luxury thing. Like you could go out there and play like a static 2 high with PJ, and PJ can't come down. He could probably blitz a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the luxury tag is a proper term here. Given the circumstances, losing Mike, having Sanders has been unquestionably the more important one. Given the circumstances of this season, in a vacuum player versus player is probably a little bit closer, but it's a blowout with Mike out for as long as he's been. Like not having Sanders would have put you just in an insanely dire situation. And he's come through. He's come through big in some games. So yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that will do it for us. We want to thank you guys for joining the live stream with us. We always appreciate it. We appreciate your questions, your support. We thank you guys for being members of this community. Make sure you guys are going to NewOrleans.Football /subscribe if you're not already a a member, and sign up. Pick a tier. There's a few different options. Pick the one that works best for you. Man, the more support, the more work Nick can do, the more creative he can get in some of his ideas. And trust me, he has a lot of ideas. So yeah, just the bigger the site becomes, the more things, the more videos he can do. You guys make sure you following the YouTube channel. There's a lot of different content going on there every week. Make sure you guys are supporting the YouTube page too. That helps a lot. Like and subscribe, notification bell if you're feeling really generous. You guys can follow Nick on Twitter at Nick_Underhill. You can follow me on Twitter at Kevin Morris Jr. And the Saints play this weekend. So you guys be ready, and we'll be back next week. You guys stay safe. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week. We out.